Hey, Ari here. Today I want to give a quick little review on the Corsair Scimitar, which is Corsair's newest MMO MOBA style gaming mouse. The Scimitar is a MOBA MMO style gaming mouse with an optical sensor and RGB lighting. Its main features are its 12 mechanical side buttons, which sit inside of a key slider that can be adjusted with a total of 8mm of travel and securely locked in place with the included tool, allowing you to find the perfect fit for your hand. Left, right, and scroll wheel click, plus 2 buttons for switching DPI settings, brings the total button count for this mouse up to 17 buttons that you can program any way you choose. The Scimitar is equipped with a 12,000 DPI optical sensor that can be adjusted from 100 DPI all the way up to 12,000 DPI if you choose to do so. You can change all these settings and more while using the Corsair Utility Engine, or Q for short, which controls all of Corsair's latest devices. The mouse weighs in at 147 grams and has dimensions of 119.4 millimeters in length, 77 millimeters in width, and 48.8 millimeters in height. And since this is another RGB device, that brings us to the 4 lighting zones that are on the mouse that you can independently adjust each zone any way you like, up to 16.8 million color options. The Scimitar comes with a 2-year warranty and is about $80 depending on where you like to purchase your products. I'd have to say I really like the Scimitar. It's a really good mouse, even though it's more tailored for MMO or MOBA style gaming, which is, they're pretty popular games right now. I'm still using this mouse more for first-person shooters, like Battlefield and Call of Duties and stuff like that, which might be a little impractical because it is, I don't know if the mouse is really designed for that active usage with the 12 button keypad that's on the side of the mouse. I did notice it seemed like I had the ability to have a few misclicks when I was trying to really focus on first-person shooters, and you're whipping the mouse around, trying to cover your back and move around and navigate quickly in games where every second counts and you need good precision and accuracy. I felt like some of the buttons that I had bind for rather healing or melee or so forth that were on the mouse button, I had the ability to accidentally have a misclick while trying to play those games. The previous mouse that I used is Logitech's G600 MMO style mouse. It's pretty much the same thing. There are a lot of other mice that are out in the market, like the Razer Naga, the G600, and now the Scimitar. And there have been a few revisions over the years from all these different companies. I have to say, I was a little taken back by the weight of the mouse. It is 10-15 grams heavier, but it felt lighter than the G600, which took a little while to get used to. I don't feel that it's a lower quality mouse in any regard because it felt lighter to me. It doesn't feel like it's cheap material or anything. It feels really nice in the hand. I do like that the key slider allows you the ability to kind of position your hand wherever feels more natural to you to a certain degree on the mouse. And you can lift the mouse and look on the bottom, and there's a little tool that's included that you can use to really make sure you lock that key slider in so it doesn't move on you while you're playing your games. And I didn't have any problems. You shouldn't have any concerns with that coming loose on you, as long as you make sure you tighten it down. You don't really have to crank it or anything, but you can just make sure it's gently snug and you should be good to go. The left and right click buttons were very responsive. They did feel like they had a light touch to them, but there wasn't any really problem while using them. I did feel that it was a little bit of a lighter touch than I was used to, but that was less of an issue getting used to than the sensor, because the G600 that I'm using, and I kind of switched back to my original setup to kind of give more of a direct comparison with the new hardware. The G600 is a laser mouse, and the new Scimitar is an optical sensor. It didn't seem to track quite as well on my mouse pad, which I've used for quite a while, and maybe that's the reason why. It's got a little wear and tear on it. But I had to turn on enhanced pointer precision within the Q software to minimize the effect of where when you're moving the mouse and it's that really fine granular movement when you're not really taking large strides across the surface with it, where you're just trying to ever so carefully move the mouse to like really click on something specific. That I would have that cursor jump issue that is pretty well documented. You can see a lot of people talk about that with all kinds of mice. on YouTube. But enabling enhanced pointer precision seemed to really get rid of that problem. And while I don't like to use any kind of software enhancements when I'm configuring these mice, I was okay with that. It seemed to fix the one issue, and maybe firmware updates or software updates to the Q engine will kind of improve that. Because keep in mind that these devices that I've been reviewing are relatively new. They're brand new right out of the gate. Of course, there's probably going to be some bugs that need to be worked out. And I have to say, any of the issues that I did have mostly seem to be worked out across all of the RGB devices that I have sampled so far. Overall, the look and feel of the mouse is great. Keep in mind that the yellow is, again, apparent on this mouse. It's not as bold as the headset because there was a lot more yellow on the headset. But the mouse, I was completely okay with the little strip of yellow, kind of accent, detail accent coloring around the keypad. It's a little striking, but it's nice to, it was a nice change to kind of have a little more color brought into my setup. Because I usually try to keep things neutral, blacks and blues, or whites and blacks and stuff like that. I don't usually go too crazy with color options. But I really did like bringing the color with the RGB lighting in, which was a nice change. It kind of brought a little more life to my gaming experience and just general usage with the computer. The Q software is really nice, but it did have a few things that I felt could be improved in the future, whether or not there's any kind of licensing issues or whatever with that compared to how other companies do it. The G600 from Logitech has the ability to just kind of import all your game profiles. You can just tell it where on your hard drives you have all your games, and it'll pull all those, and you can load them in, and you can write in the software for Logitech, flesh out all your customizations of your lighting options, your key bindings, so forth, right in their software. Logitech doesn't have that. I mean, Corsair doesn't really seem to have that, but maybe that's something they'll bring in the future, or they'll have a little more implementation with that. Basically, the best thing I can tell you to do with the Q software is, if you have a lot of games that you play that all pretty much have the same key bindings, basically what you can do is you have your normal profile on the desktop, and then you can create alternate profiles. So you'll make an alternate profile, and I recommend setting it up for the game that you use the same kind of key bindings the most throughout most of your games. Make that profile, and then just duplicate that profile and change the linking of that profile to the game, so that way you have whatever by default is set on the desktop, and then when you boot into your game, it'll see that exe file that you've linked and say, okay, I'll make these changes and I'll move over to that profile. I really like RGB lighting, or any kind of lighting, even if it's not 16.8 million color options, because a lot of these devices have become more advanced to the point where I like to change the color of the devices when I'm using different games, or whatever application I'm using that I have custom key bindings for, because sometimes you will have a problem where it'll hang out. It just happens. You'll have something will go wrong and it'll hang up, and maybe your key bindings you notice aren't working right, or the mouse has just completely stopped responding, which I haven't had any of those problems with this so far, but it does happen. You'll know just by quickly glancing over, hey, my profile hasn't changed to, let's say, Diablo 3 or whatever I've made, completely all red themed. The mouse isn't red. You'll know something's up pretty quickly, even if you don't notice your key bindings being off immediately. And the mouse does have 4 independent lighting zones. You can rather have them all coordinated once in one click of a button to propagate those settings out to all 4 zones, or you can independently control each. Now, I want to point out that the one zone really is just for the DPI settings, but you can still go into the software and you can change the color for that DPI profile, for that game profile, to match. It doesn't have to just be something that's completely an off color to whatever theme you're trying to go for, which is nice. And they do have that option where you can have the 3 or 5 levels that you set. Make sure that you change those colors to match if you are customizing the mouse in that regard. I really do like the RGB lighting. I like the mouse overall. I didn't have any major complaints with it. I only had the mouse hang up once, and I think that was probably because I had bugs with the Corsair utility engine while using both devices, using the Void headset, which had a few problems that I think have since been completely corrected with a more recent update that I haven't gotten to play with. But yeah, this has been a quick review of the Scimitar RGB gaming mouse. I hope you liked it, and as always, give a thumbs up, leave a comment below, and subscribe to my channel for more content in the future. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and stay tuned.